All right, so welcome back to the shed. This is a video I've been wanting to make for a long time. I have my Polygon here with a SRAM GX derailleur, and I have Tracy's bike with what is my go-to derailleur, a Deore 5100 series derailleur. And we're going to talk about both of them. We're going to look at the differences. We're going to look at the shifting, and then we're going to talk about my opinion, how I feel about each one. So maybe it'll give you an idea. If you go to buy one, you'll have some idea to go by. And then we're going to talk about 11 speed versus 10 speed. We're going to do a little bit of whiteboard discussion and talk about gear ratios and such. So let me get set up, and I'm going to tell you why I decided to even try the SRAM GX derailleur. All right, so this all started about 2 years ago when I decided I wanted to try an XD style cassette because I really liked that it had the 9-tooth high gear. So I bought this cassette. It was about $130. It's an aftermarket cassette. It's not a SRAM factory part. And I put this on with an XD style hub, and I could not get it to work right. 8th and 9th gear, just under load, the chain would just skip. So I decided it must be because I'm using a Shimano derailleur. So I bought the SRAM GX derailleur, figuring that would solve the problem, and it made no difference whatsoever. So if you were ever wondering if you could mix a SRAM derailleur and a Shimano HG style hub, it's been my experience that you can, at least in 11 speed. You know, they worked exactly the same. So part of the reason I also wanted to do it was, if you look at this style hub, the cassette actually, you can see there's notches that it goes to and there's threads right there. The cassette actually screws down solid. Whereas with your standard HG style cassette, it's basically just a spline it floats on. And you can see here, this is the spline that it goes on. And what happens is over time, these get little gouges in them. If you watched my last video, I had a picture of one. If I can figure out how to do it, I'll put one over my shoulder from the other video. But also the smallest sprocket you could get, smallest chain wheel, was 11 tooth. So I like the idea of the 9, but it didn't work out for me. The only thing I'm going to say is, I think if you buy a factory SRAM cassette, which are very expensive, they're like $220 for an 11 speed cassette, it probably will work. Don't mess with the aftermarket XD cassettes, because it's a lot of money for something that don't work. So what we're going to do now, though, is I'm going to set the bike up here. I'm going to go over some of the details on the GX derailleur. And then we're going to watch the shifting. And then we're going to do a bounce test so we can see how effective the clutch is. And then we're going to do the same thing with Tracy's bike. So the SRAM GX derailleur I have on here with a 50-tooth cassette. And you'll notice it doesn't need an extender link. So I like that. It also has a really strong clutch, but it doesn't. So the SRAM derailleur doesn't have a lever to shut the spring, the clutch off, but it has this little pin. So you can push this forward, and the pin catches your derailleur, so you can take the wheel on and off. And then all you have to do is push forward, and it comes back into play. The one thing I'm going to mention, though, so we have the shifter up here. So the shifter, you can only downshift with your thumb. So you're doing both operations with your thumb. And I kind of had really liked using my forefinger. All right, so we're going to do the bounce test in a minute. But first, we're going to go through the gears. And you watch the gears there so you can record it for me. And I'm going to put it right back up in the, I'm going to put it right on 4th for a bounce test. So pretty much not much chain slap at all. So let's get the other bike in here and we'll do the same thing. Let's look at the Shimano now. All right, so this is the Shimano 5100 series derailleur with a clutch. This has been my go-to for the last couple of years. I actually use it as a 10-speed or an 11-speed. If we do the 10-speed, we do the 4100 shifter, and that makes it a 10-speed because the ratio is the same within the derailleur. You probably notice the cage is a little bit bigger than the Shimano. And the other difference is it has a release for the clutch. This little lever here takes the clutch pressure off so you can put your wheel on and off. And then that makes the spring tighter. So we're gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna pedal it and we're gonna go through the gears. And you listen to how the gears shift compared to the SRAM. All right, the one shift that didn't go right away, that was because I didn't push the lever enough. But otherwise, it's working pretty good. So, okay, so now you heard the Deore and you heard the GX. You can judge for yourself which sounds better. We're going to talk about them as a group in a few minutes. But let's put this down and do the drop test.
Ready.
So that was about nothing also. We're going to compare the pictures, though, side by side and see which is worse. But they're both pretty good, though, so far as that. But I want to mention the shifter on the Shimano. You can use your finger or you can use your thumb to shift. So I like the shifter on the Shimano a whole lot better.
Ready.
All right, so you can look at what we went through and make your own decision. But my opinion over the last year running a SRAM, 2 years running a Deore, the SRAM definitely shifts better. But I will tell you one thing, if you go more than a couple rides without doing some maintenance on it, it'll start not shifting right. Whereas the Shimano Deore, you can run that through mud for six months and it'll just keep doing the same thing. And I like the shifter better on the Deore. I think you can get a 5100 series Deore derailleur, you know, probably, I don't know, $60 on eBay, where the SRAM GX, I paid $125. I haven't looked lately to see what they're going for. So there's cost difference there. I guess you'd have to decide for yourself, you know, which would work better. I have one other thing I want to talk about today, though, because I've been doing a lot of 10-speed setups on bikes for people I ride with. And I want to explain to you why on the whiteboard. So let's go to the whiteboard. All right, so if you notice here, I got 11-speed, 11 to 50. 11 to 50 is what I've been using lately. And 10-speed, 11 to 50. Sometimes the ratios vary a little bit and all. But if you notice, the last four sizes are the same on both cassettes. So this is basically your first, second, third, and fourth. On both are the same. If you look up here, 11th and 10th, or 10th and 9th, they're both the same. So you're basically dealing with this range in the middle, which for our riding is kind of where we're at most of the time. We don't have a lot of downhill per se, but we have we'll have some up and then a little bit of down and a lot of pedaling, a lot of flat ground too, you know, New Jersey here. And this is the range we're riding in most of the time. But I think what's interesting, if you look at it, the 10-speed, so just going among these gears here, it's an 18% difference in ratios. So when you're shifting, it's an 18% difference going from one gear to the next. And what I find in that, you know, say you're riding, you're pedaling, say you're in fourth gear, or probably more likely fifth or sixth. Say you're in fifth gear and you're pedaling for the next turn, you're gonna be over pedaling. You're gonna run out of load on your pedals. And you're going to want to upshift, but then as soon as you get to the next turn, you're downshifting again. And a 10-speed works better with that because with the bigger spread, you basically have a bigger spread that you're able to have enough load on your pedals where you're pedaling effectively, right? You're not over pedaling, you're not over spinning. So basically it has to do with crank RPMs, which people measure. I have no way of measuring it, but you just feel like there's not enough load, like you want to upshift. Sometimes with me, with the 11-speed, I'm like double shifting to get to the next gear because there's not enough load on the pedal. So this is basically what I've been finding has been working better, the 10-speed on a lot of bikes. You know, unless you're out of shape like me, then you need the 11-speed. But I don't know, just my opinion. That's what I've been dealing with lately, what I've been messing around with. So I hope you enjoyed our little discussion on the differences between the derailleurs and the cassette. And hope you enjoyed it. All right. Catch you next time.